So, as many of you know, April is Autism Awareness Month. And so, for the whole month of April, we are going to acknowledge autism awareness. But I have a secret. I've never, ever acknowledged Autism Awareness Month. My son is 25 years old. He was diagnosed with autism at age 5, and I've never, ever acknowledged Autism Awareness Month. And I'm going to tell you why. But first, let me tell you about a post I read not too long ago, just in the last couple days, about a mother in one of the groups that I'm in one of the autism groups that I'm in. And her testimony was so real, so I'm going to share it. So her child with autism is maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4. And she said, I know Autism Awareness Month is coming up, and I am not looking forward to it. She's like, I have 2 kids with autism, and I love my kids dearly. However, I am not looking forward to Autism Awareness Month. She's like, because I don't celebrate having 2 kids with autism. It's hard, it's difficult, it's lonely, it's a lot of things. She listed a bunch of adjectives. And when I tell you I felt her pain, I think the reason why I never acknowledged it is because of the way they presented autism awareness over the years, right? They present it like it's this thing to be celebrated, right? And I understand it. It's like, hey, they have these t-shirts that say, they're not disabled, they're differently abled. Your superhero wears a cape and mine has autism, that kind of thing. And they're like, you shouldn't, put them down because there's nothing wrong with being different. But when you're the parent of a child with autism and you're raising them and you're struggling just to get them to eat or get them to sit in the car or trying to get through a department store or trying to get a shower, and your child just screams and bangs their head on the wall, you don't know what it's like. Because I had to deal with that too. And so whenever they come up with a month talking about, let's celebrate that. And I'm like, the parents are like, what? Celebrate what? Especially for the parents who have been asking for help. Especially for the families who just want a night out with the family and their child can't sit still. They're overwhelmed, overstimulated at the restaurant, and they're screaming and they're crying and they're stemming and they're throwing stuff, and the parents can't control them. And instead of the restaurant patrons having compassion on this family, they're irritated. A couple weeks ago, I read a post on my feed. One of my Facebook friends posted an article of a family that had a son or daughter on an airplane, and this child cried and screamed this whole flight. And everybody talked about how miserable they were and how this parent had no control over their 3 or 4-year-old. And I commented and I said, this child was probably on the spectrum. You know what I mean? His ears were probably popping. It was probably very painful, and he can't communicate that. And, the parents don't know what's wrong or how to nurture him, to calm him down. And so unfortunately the parents, they were probably unable to console him, and they probably hadn't experienced this type of behavior before, because this may have been his first flight, right? And some people responded to me like, well, it was still irritating, they need to figure it out. It's hard for parents. I mean, I feel for the people on the flight too. Like, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be on a flight for 5 or 6 hours and have a kid screaming their face off the whole time. No, nobody wants that, okay? But that's why it makes it even harder for parents with autism. So the thing is that whenever they come up and say, "Oh, autism, let's celebrate all the people with autism because they're amazing." It's hard for parents to digest celebrating autism because nobody, not one parent celebrated that diagnosis when their child received it. Not one parent celebrated that. You see what I'm saying? The word celebrate means to observe a notable occasion with festivities. Nobody, to honor with ceremonies. Nobody's ordering balloons whenever your child. We celebrate weddings and engagements. We celebrate birthdays and graduations. We celebrate all the good things. And an autism diagnosis is not a good diagnosis. Everybody knows that. So yeah, whenever we had, Autism Speaks, Walks, and all this other stuff, I think I may have done it once or twice with the school whenever my son was in grade school. But for the most part, I didn't have autism T-shirts and stuff and the blue wristbands. I didn't. I was like, I just didn't. Think what you want. Call me whatever. Unless you raised a child with autism, you really don't know. Okay? So for these parents in these groups who are just like, I'm not in it. I'm not like my spirit, my heart's not in it. I get it. And for those of you who don't know, be thankful that you don't know what we've gone through and what we're going through. Okay? So that's why. So as you can see, today is the day before Autism Awareness Month, and I have on my blue. I never wear blue nail polish, and I have on my blue shirt. Because this year, I'm going to celebrate autism awareness. Awareness. Okay? So let me define what autism awareness should be about. All of the things that I just mentioned, maybe you're not aware of. And that's what I want to bring to light this month. We're going to talk about autism awareness. Most people know or have come into contact with a family or a child or an adult who has autism. But maybe you're not aware of maybe some of the things that I just mentioned. Maybe you didn't know that my own son has struggled with tantrums and banging his head on the wall and talking about hurting himself. Maybe you didn't know that stuff. We're going to talk about awareness, okay? And being overwhelmed and what's happening in the brain and being overstimulated and what causes that, okay? So this week specifically, I'm going to talk specifically about increased understanding and acceptance. We're going to dispel some myths, promote empathy, how to promote empathy, and reduce stigma and discrimination. Okay? I'm going to talk about advocacy and change, rights, promote inclusion, and access to resources. All right? And I'm going to talk about how to support families, early identification and intervention, access to services, and access to education. Because most people just don't know. Period. That's why you're at the restaurant and you look 3 tables over, and whenever you see a child that's out of control, you just roll your eyes and smirk and shrug your shoulders and say, well, that child's just spoiled. That's what my mom said about my son for years. And it's because that people need to be educated on autism awareness. So it's not the autism we're celebrating, but this is a time, this is the month that's dedicated to understanding autism, especially because 1 in every 36 children in our country have autism, and the number is even higher for boys. And at this point in time, the children don't have as much access to resources as we need them to have. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week specifically and throughout the month. And if I can help you learn something, if I can help you to be put in a position where you can be more helpful in your community or to educate someone else, if you can share my videos, then I've done my job. Okay? I hope you've been watching my videos. You can go to my YouTube channel. I'll drop that in the chat. And I hope you continue to watch videos and hope that you will continue to educate yourself on autism awareness. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next ones.